Live from Ossining, New York. It's the local scene. All right, well, it's not live. It's actually taped. Good morning, everyone. And it's Saturday morning, August 25, 2001, that we're taping this. A little before 10 o'clock, so those of you watching on the 25th, yeah, this is fresh stock here. One of the things we're going to do before we get into the political aspects and you know, the village business stuff that we talk about here very, very often, there's going to be some other business of our village. And let's see, it's about music. Let's say that much. There's a person that was a big, or made a big mark in the music business, and was from Ossining, New York, born and raised here. I'm not talking about Tommy Grieve. I'm not talking about Abe Speller. I'm not talking about Anna Graham Goulian. I'm not talking about Kendall Buchanan. I'm not talking about Jeff Cheatham. I'm not talking about Leardis Morris. I'm not talking about Abe Speller. I'm not talking about me. I'm not talking about John Doty. I'm not talking about Ricky Riley. I'm not talking about Cliff Carter. I'm not talking about Eddie Cross. I'm not talking about Ted Daniel. I'm not talking about any of those folks whatsoever.
Kofi McDonald.
Oh, not Kofi McDonald neither. Okay? And let's see. Who else am I not talking about? David Kent, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about Jimmy Fortunato. I'm not talking about either Peter or Charlie Campo. I'm not talking about Johnny Bates. I'm not talking about, gee, who else? Abe, I'm sorry, I mentioned Abe. Steve Worthy or Mark Rasco or Mark Worthy. I'm not talking about Claude Ford. I'm not talking about Steve Nelson. I'm not talking about, let's see, who else do we remember from that? Bobby Filippi. I'm not talking about, let's see, well, I'm not talking about any of those folks, okay? I'm talking about somebody that I had the privilege of traveling halfway around the United States with on one occasion. He toured the world a number of times. He's very well known in Europe, very well known in Japan, a star in those places, as a matter of fact, from Ossining, born and bred here. Wasn't talking about John Girolamo either. Not talking about, geez, let's see, who else? There's a whole lot of folks that are musicians around here. Not talking about Tommy Mercer either, or Tony Masulo, as he was named at birth. I am talking about, however, the man who played with everyone in every style of music, from doo-wop to the type of jazz that he invented, which is free-form jazz. Played with Miles Davis, played with and recorded with Miles Davis, actually. Played with John Coltrane. Played with just about every really important jazz person that you've ever heard of that was alive from the mid-60s to, well, until this man stopped recording when he passed away in 1994. We are talking about, you can hit that little roll-in any minute now, and you're going to see who it is we're talking about. And then I'll tell you why we're talking about him. It's Sonny Sharrock. Sonny Sharrock, the inventor of free-form jazz guitar. One of the men that, for example, Jimi Hendrix claimed as an influence. One of the men that so many of the current crop of musicians, electric guitar players in particular, but also horn players. Oh, I wasn't talking about Eddie Cross either, by the way. I didn't mean to leave Ed off. Anyway, Sonny Sharrock passed away, unfortunately, on May 26th in 1994. Tomorrow, which is Sunday the 26th, 2000, between 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. on the radio station WKCR. You'll see that up again in a minute or two. It's 89.9 FM. A whole bunch of folks that had the honor and pleasure of either working with or for or just knowing and benefiting from that, Sonny Sharrock. on a radio interview featuring much of his music. We have a little bit of that that will hit in this. In fact, we can hit now, which was named after his Uncle Herb, Uncle Herbie's Dance. You're hearing that. Great. Okay, so you're getting a little taste there, and we're going to be proud to honor Sonny tomorrow. Tune in, 89.9 FM from 2 o'clock until 7 o'clock tomorrow, Sunday. And you'll get to hear the whole range of Sonny's music, 5 hours worth of that, and little stories about, you know, some road stories, and I understand his daughter's coming down, and so you'll get to hear a lot of personal, you know, side of Sonny's life also. He was a great guy. He was a great friend. He was a great musician. He was a treasure of this village, the treasure in many ways. And so tomorrow we're going to be bringing it to the folks in the metropolitan New York area. And I thought maybe people in Austin in particular would be interested to see what one of the major cultural contributions that our village has made to the world sounds like. So you're getting a little taste of that. Okay, so see you at 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. tomorrow, 89.9 FM WKCR, which is Columbia University's radio station. This is tomorrow, Sunday the 26th. Let's get down to the rest of our business here. Okay. And thank you to Kendall Buchanan for giving me a buzz and asking me to participate again. We did this, about 5 years ago down there. It was a long program also. And I had a great time. The guy who was the DJ actually on KCR, the tape that program, I rode in a truck driving equipment around for Sonny in September of '93 with him. We went from here to Chicago and down to Indiana and down to DC and all over the place, and it was great. I have some videotape of that, which you won't see until his family makes it available for sale, but it was great. He was a great musician, a great guy to hang out with. He was something that all of us, he was a person that all of us in Austin should be proud of. I, for one, am very, very proud just to have known him. So, here we go. See this? You haven't seen one of these in a while. I thought you might want to take a look at it. I have some again. And if you give me a buzz or drop me an email, and you'll see the phone number. There's the phone number, and you'll see the email address sooner or later. You have time to go write that down. Then I'll send you a T-shirt that says, just in case that was too quick for you, we want a riverfront park. Okay, this is for those of you who are interested in helping us protect the land that we have down on the Hudson River, Harbor Square Park, and the property lying just to the north of it, and having it developed for us. I want to tell you something I read in the paper this morning that was quite amazing. Well, you know what? Before that, in this morning's paper also, again, it's the 25th of August that I'm reading this. The inside last page of the classifieds section of the Journal News, there's a classified section, you know what that looks like. And then the inside back page, over here, legal notices. That's garage sales. Legal notices here, sort of the same. Anyway, there is at the bottom of the page, like down here where my thumb is, something that says, Notice of Resolution Initiating Permissive Referendum. Well, some other municipality in Westchester County, in this case the town of North Salem, is planning to sell some land that it owns also. And so, before they do that, they want to ask the people of North Salem whether they should do it or not. Now, under the law, I don't have the site handy. I believe it's Section 64 of the town law. It's New York State town law. Townships, towns have the authority to conduct a permissive referendum on a sale of real property. Villages don't have a specific grant of that. Their device for permissive referendum is to seek the authority in a case-by-case basis through a special home rule law. In other words, a village of Austin could do this. They just have to take an extra step. This is, notice is hereby given that the town board of the town of North Salem, on a regular meeting held on August 14th, 2001, adopted a resolution, an abstract of which is that, subject to a permissive referendum, certain improved real property located at 58 Lake Street, then the tax ID of the property, shall be conveyed at a total price of $11,000. They're selling like a little piece of land in a building, 11 grand, and before they sell that, they're asking the people in North Salem should they do it or not, as opposed to selling, 4 acres of accessible waterfront property, which the Village of Austin doesn't think we should bother to have a voice on. Just to give you a little, study in contrast between our mayor and the town supervisor and town board in North Salem and our village board. Okay, so in today's journal news, again, the 25th of August, Saturday, on this is the A section, page 2. Rather remarkable story. The title of it is, right there. It says, Capelli buys site damaged by demolition. Now, what does that mean? I don't know how many of you were watching. I was going to stop at a friend's house this morning and pick up a hard hat, which I was going to wear in the studio, and say the reason I was wearing it is I heard that Capelli was in town. Over in White Plains, a week ago Thursday from the 25th, so it was the 16th of August, Thursday the 16th of August, at the old site where Macy's used to be, the old Macy's building, which is in the middle of being demolished now. Capelli Enterprises, who is the owner of that property and their contractor, are conducting demolition of this site. On this date, there was a big chunk, according to the Journal News, 250-foot square, of concrete, steel, and bricks that, fell onto the roof of an occupied commercial building, crashing through the roof. And fortunately, no one was killed. There were several businesses that were put out of commission. Now, that building was the subject of I don't know if it was a faux pas in retrospect, but of what I thought was a mistaken comment by Lou Capelli back in April or early May when he first bought the Macy's site. A reporter had asked about how they were going to use the entire block when this row of buildings on Martine Avenue, as the block is from Mamaroneck Avenue to the alleyway behind the old Macy's, which is called E.J. Conroy Boulevard. It's, drive-through. And then Main Street and Martine Avenue. Anyway, they asked, how are you going to deal with this? Because these tenants would not go quietly into that good night when the last proposal came through from Tishman. And he said, if I can't buy the buildings, I will use the power of eminent domain. I'll take them by eminent domain or I'll condemn them. I don't remember which. As if he had the power instead of the city of White Plains. Now, the state has the power of condemnation. It's a separate issue about that, but private individuals do not. I think railroad companies still do, I believe, and perhaps some other utility companies. Builders like Capelli do not have the power, the right of eminent domain. I'm not certain that that he's aware of that. But anyway, That was these buildings. 2 months, 3 months later, he's dropping literally a ton of bricks on their heads. So, this is on Thursday, the 16th of August. That day, they say, oh, we'll fix it, we'll make everybody whole, people will be in by Monday. That was the following Monday, so that's the 20th of August. Sometime over the weekend, they said, oh, well, they won't be, we'll get them in by Wednesday, which would be the 22nd of August. They're still not in Thursday, and they're still not in Friday. There's like a group of people who own businesses who were put out of business by this business. So, this morning, as it turns out, here's the story. Developer Louis Capelli paid $1.3 million to buy a building containing 4 stores on Martine Avenue damaged last week when a section of bricks crashed through the roof. It wasn't last week, actually. Well, yeah, it was. It's still, when you're watching this. It was on the 16th, okay? If you're watching this on the 1st of September, it's a week and a half ago, actually. After repeated promises that they could reopen, well, within days, the merchants heard yesterday for the first time that they will most likely be out of business at that location. Capelli said it didn't make sense for them to return, since the site will be destroyed within the next few months. So maybe he does have the power of eminent domain, because the city of White Plains hasn't shut him down. Now, if you were to conduct some demolition at your property and drop, one of the walls of your house or something on your neighbor, you would have like both feet of the local enforcement climbing all over you. It's not what happened in White Plains, though. It's in everyone's best interest if they relocate, Capelli said. I will help them with funds until they find new spaces. I will help them relocate. Well, I guess he did, didn't he? I will help in the rent, and I will help by outfitting the interiors of the new spaces. I'd like to interview these people in about a month and a half and ask them how they're doing. Capelli also pledged to pay the merchants for revenue lost during the closing of their shops, adding that he wrote out checks for $4,000 to each store owner as partial payment for lost business. It's an interim gesture to ease their cash flow problems, he said. Can you say out-of-court settlement? I wonder what kind of release they had to sign, cash the $4,000 check that they're getting. I don't know. People that are, running their own business very often, you're close to being on a shoestring running a hair shop or something, and, or nail cutting business. And so, I would say that's duress. Possibly. Okay. The tenant's attorney, John Savage of Mount Vernon, said Capelli's, quote, small good faith gesture, close quote, does not begin to make up for the, quote, total destruction of their businesses caused by the demolition, close quote. Yeah, I would say that probably a couple of their customers are never going to go back either. Let's see, I'm going to go get my hair cut today. Oh, the roof fell, It would unsettle me just a touch. The 4 shops adjoining the demolition site have been closed since August 16th, when now it's a 125 square foot portion of brick. Last week it was 250 feet in the newspaper. Same writer, Susan Elan. When a 125 square foot portion of brick facing broke loose from a cinder block wall of the former Macy's building while it was being dismantled. The debris crashed through the roof of Esther Nails. On Thursday, 7 days after the accident, Capelli bought the building that housed the 4 businesses, along with several vacant storefronts that run from 205 to 211 Martine Avenue. The property, owned by, it's AONELIN, Alnellin Co. Inc. of White Plains, had been purchased for $1.15 million in 1990. Their attorney, Gregory Drummond, did not return calls for comment. So he bought it 10 years later, at the end of a real estate boom, next to the biggest thing to hit White Plains. It's going to lift everyone's boats, and the guy made $150,000. I was going to say profit. That's not even inflation. So this guy sold it for less than he bought it for, essentially, in real dollars. Forget the exploding real estate market since 1990, and then forget the fact that he's, is basically, well, whatever. Stinks, don't it? City building officials ordered the 4 shops closed until the demolition crew finished removing the adjoining Macy's wall. Now, so who are they working for? I mean, what is that? How about ordering Capelli to conduct a safe operation? This is the kind of crap that our friends over at 16 Croton Avenue want to do for Mr. Capelli here also. I'm hoping you guys on Main Street, people in the ADO, people in the Austin Chamber of Commerce, businesses on Main and Spring, I hope you're paying attention to how they're dealing with the small businesses, especially if you're a tenant. Everything you're hearing from these people now is a lot of nonsense. They will say anything to put their shovel in the ground. As it turns out, sometimes they're digging a hole 6 foot deep, aren't they? You wonder who it's for? Yeah, city building officials ordered the 4 shops closed until a demolition crew finished removing the adjoining Macy's wall. Shop owners had been told initially that they could reopen a day after the accident. Yesterday, Damon Amodio, the city's deputy building inspector, said the merchants could, I got 8 minutes left, said the merchants could safely reopen their stores next week after city staff members examined the premises. That was yesterday. Before buying the Martine Avenue property, Capelli said store owners could continue to occupy their shops until he started demolition for construction of his proposed center. Thanks, that's nice of you. If Aonellen, if the owner, had failed to sell, Capelli could have asked the city to acquire the property through eminent domain proceedings because it falls within the boundaries of the main Mamaroneck Avenue Urban Renewal Project. Now, I was at the hearing when they moved forward with that. I think it was in July. Might have been June. I think it was July, though. And over in White Plains. And included in that hearing was the Arts Council building, which everybody in White Plains seems to think is safe, except it was part of the legal proceeding for taking by eminent domain. A structural engineer who was working on the Capelli project verified the structural integrity of the stores. Capelli also paid to have the roof repaired and to place a shield of scaffolding and metal plates above the stores to protect them. Several properties slated to make up the remaining portions of Capelli's proposed center remain in the hands of other owners. Capelli said yesterday he's confident he can reach agreement with those owners without resorting to the use of eminent domain. I have contracts on every property except Fleet Bank. There's a frank statement, isn't it? I expect to close on them early in September. I don't know if it means he expects to close on a contract with Fleet, or if he expects to have closings on all the other properties and is still working on Fleet. I remember, though, the lawyer for Fleet was at the June meeting when they were talking about when they enabled the eminent domain process, including the Fleet building. They're like, what they're doing is holding up a big stick at the property owners. The city's doing that, and Capelli's dangling a little carrot. The 4 Martine Avenue, that's what I've heard anyway. The 4 Martine Avenue shop owners have been on an emotional roller coaster for more than a week as they awaited word of what would come of the businesses that provide their livelihoods. And this is the treatment they're getting from their own city government. This is the businesses that are there in White Plains. He's only been there since April, working on this project. The tenants said yesterday their financial futures depend on whether Capelli keeps his promises to them. Good luck. All of my retirement savings, good luck from anybody. It's not even a reference to his character. These guys, it's in their interest to, to close you out and pay you as little as they can get away with and get on with the business of building their, little Emerald City thing. City, whatever the hell they call it. All my retirement savings are in that shop, said Eileen Brown, owners of Expressions Hair Design. If no one helps me, I will be totally bankrupted. I withdrew my money early from my 401k to pay to rent and outfit the shop, and I'm still paying IRS for the early withdrawal. Brown and the others said they are willing to relocate because they and their clients now fear for their safety. It's kind of hard to cut somebody's hair when they're wearing a hard hat. I want to stay in White Plains, said Dari Grant Minaya, owner of the Cachet Barber Shop. But I don't really want to go back in. I don't think the building is safe. Minaya's shop sustained damage during the first demolition accident on August 2nd. Bridget Wayu, owner of Root African Hair Braiding, said she had no choice but to move the business she has operated on Martine Avenue for 4 years. We are obliged to accept. We don't know what else to do. Because of the 2 accidents, the businesses couldn't attract customers at the Martine Avenue location because they would fear for their safety, Savage said. My clients will only go back in to remove their stuff. Okay? That's who we're playing with. That's who we're going to give our waterfront to. That's who Cambereri's meeting behind closed doors with. Well, anyway, I want to remind you tomorrow, the 26th of August, not the 2nd of September, if you're watching this on September 1st. On August 26th at between 2 and 7 p.m., the radio station 89.9 FM. Oh, there's a graphic. Cool. We did save it. I was wondering if we saved that. WKCR. You're going to hear the music and some stories about the life of Ossinings's own, the late SONNY SHARROCK, and tune in. I'll be down there. Kendall Buchanan will be down there. Not sure if Abe Speller is able to make it or not. A whole bunch of folks that knew and loved Sonny, that worked with him, that worked for him, that played with him and played music, are going to be on the radio talking about him and his music and playing a bunch of his music for you. So, tune in. Somebody in Ossining down there at 16 Croton Avenue might think about naming something after SONNY SHARROCK, by the way, since he is probably, after Sing Sing prison, the best-known person around the world from Ossining in the music business, certainly, with the possible exception of Tommy Mercer. Most of his fans, though, are, sort of, 60s, 70s, 80s, were, gone. Sonny's are, folks in their teens up to their 60s, jazz aficionados, people who are, heavy into the whole invention process around free-form jazz guitar. Anyway, tune it in tomorrow. What do I got? About a minute left? Yeah, I got a minute left. So, let's see. On the 4th of September, Tuesday, there's a village board meeting. Those of you who are interested in what is going to happen on the Ossining waterfront, come on down. I'm not certain what's going to happen there. I wanted to do 2 things. One, that same evening, people that are concerned about the Millennium Pipeline, there is a hearing down in Mount Vernon. If you email me, I'll email you the details. Unfortunately, I didn't bring that with me. That's also September 4th. And those who are concerned about what's going on in White Plains, there's also a hearing in White Plains, September 4th at 8 p.m. on Main Street, rather, at City Hall in the hearing room on the 2nd floor. They'll be discussing various aspects of Capelli's proposal. I'll be in Ossining. I've got some issues to raise with the village board, and I'll see you later. Thanks. Have a good day.